Welcome, everybody, to another episode of Lawbogadas with your co-hosts, Missy Duarte and Connie Pena. We are two lawyers, Latinas, moms on a mission to bring awareness and perspective about the issues that are important to you. I'm Missy Duarte. I'm a licensed attorney in New Jersey and Florida with my office based in Hackensack, New Jersey, and I practice personal injury law. I represent victims of accidents, get compensation for their injuries, pain, and suffering as a result of the negligence of another person, business, or entity.
And I am Connie Pena. I am licensed in the state of Florida. I practice family law and family-based immigration outside of Palm Beach County, Broward County, Miami-Dade County, basically the Tri-County area, helping families and individuals transition into new phases of their lives.
So we want to welcome our listeners. If you're new to our podcast, new to following us, bienvenidos. Thank you so much for following us. Our handle is Lawbogadas on all platforms. You can catch up on the latest episodes anytime on Instagram, YouTube, Spotify, and Apple Podcasts. If you have any questions or want to reach out to us about any topics that are of interest to you, or maybe you just have some questions on some of the areas that we've already addressed, please don't hesitate to send us a DM, or you can also email us at info@lawbogadas.com.
So, Missy, today we're here to talk about the new abortion ban in Florida signed by the governor on Thursday, April 13th, 2023. I know you and I are both equally upset about this ban and everything that it represents and everything that it does and every way that this affects us in the here and now. This is brand new. So just signed. This episode is going to be released on Monday. This happened Thursday. And so the other thing is that it's official, but it's not, right? Because the governor of Florida already did a 15-week ban that's been challenged, and it's pending in the Florida Supreme Court. So this law is kind of contingent, if you will, on that one, getting upheld or not. I'm not really sure how that's going to go. I mean, look, I am in no way some kind of fabulous legal scholar. I am an attorney, but I'm not here like writing essays on legal topics, every day. But have you ever seen a law that's like, I know that you're already challenging this, but you know what? I'm going to go ahead and move with a more restrictive one. We're kind of see how it goes. Like that's very strange to me. And it seems very political. I don't know what you think.
I mean, the timing of this is just exceptional, given the fact that this is potentially like a presidential candidate, right? And this is the same guy that signed this 15-week-old ban last year. I believe it was last July. What makes me, aside from, the timing of this, is really, you signed the 15-week one. And interestingly enough, like you're doing this before a large audience at a church in Central Florida and whatever. This bill that he just passed yesterday, that signed into law yesterday, or contingent on whatever's going on with the legislation with the 15-week ban, is signed at 10:45 at night. Like who is there, surrounded by supporters? Like it just reeks. It is shady. I'm disgusted. I'm annoyed. Like
I mean, well, he's been doing these things though. Like they just passed the open carry, no class, no nothing, no brain required to carry around a gun in Florida, and that was also done behind closed doors.
Right.
It wasn't done publicly or in the open with people to be present. So, I mean, that's a different topic. At the end of the day, what we need to focus on for purposes of our listeners is to explain, especially since you and I are both, Florida practicing attorneys. A lot of our listeners are from Florida and from other places, but primarily a lot are from down here. This is a big deal because it's very scary. I mean, you and I are both moms. And whether or not you want to be a mom has nothing, it shouldn't be based off of, oh my God, who's in office right now? Like, to be super candid, I have one child. My husband and I are discussing the possibility of a second one. And it's really upsetting to me that one of the things that I'm weighing in this kind of decision is, what if I have a pregnancy that needs to be terminated, a pregnancy I wanted, right? But that needs to be terminated because the brain is not developing. The child will die upon being born, right? And I have to concern myself about laws that are not even in place today, but that could be 6 months from now, right? Because like you're saying, the 15-week one was done a year ago. You haven't barely let the ink be dry on what you signed. It's still challenged, but let's keep going, right? And so it's really scary in my opinion. Like it doesn't affect only people that perhaps these politicians are kind of trying to, you know, stigmatize, if you will, in the public eye. It affects everyone.
And I mean, that's a great point. I think the main point that I want to address right now, regardless of whether or not you live in Florida or associated with Florida, women everywhere need to be concerned about this. And given, Roe v. Wade being overturned, now this is just, and I know that we're going to get into this down the line, but really, like, initially, like, the point is everybody needs to be concerned. I'm in New Jersey. It doesn't matter. At this point, what this is going to be, or what this
What's happening?
invites, is just nonsense. Like, this is, to me, is not a pro-life thing. This is a war on women, period. Like, that's how I see it. I get very upset about this. This is a complete war on women. Me and I, you and I discussed this, in preparation for today. I didn't know I was pregnant until I was 7 weeks pregnant. Thank God, right? I'm grateful for my daughter. Thank God it was a healthy pregnancy. But there are so many things, so much testing that needs to be done during the course of your pregnancy, especially in the second trimester, which is well beyond the 6-week period. That it's going to tell you about certain things that go on with the fetus, abnormalities, defects, things that could affect that fetus if it is born into this world. So
And I mean,
Mhm.
I'm sorry, I was gonna say for the men, if any are listening, right? 6 weeks means from the date of conception, not 6 weeks from the time you found out. I feel as though like men don't understand that because you say, oh, why would you wait 6 weeks? Well, because you don't know for 6 weeks, right? So this is, to me, this law is just written in a way to be a full-on ban, but they know a full-on ban will not be approved. So it's like, what's the amount of time that we can put in here that it will effectively be a ban, right?
Correct.
Because nobody will be able to have access to a doctor before that, because even if you have the means to do so, you don't have the ability to fully know right away, right? Just like you were saying, you didn't know till 7 weeks. I planned my pregnancy. You can only plan so much, right? Planned in the sense of we wanted to have a child. And okay, you got to wait till you miss your period. That's 4 weeks, right? All the tests say, wait a few days because if you do it right away, you might get a false negative.
Right.
Okay, I waited. I was supposed to get my period on Monday. I waited till Friday. On Friday, I was like, let's see. And I got the positive result. On Monday, I call my doctor. I need an appointment because I have a positive result. I need to come in, I assume. I have never done this before, and they're like, okay, can you come in like 2-3 weeks? So if you add all that up, that's more than 6 weeks, right?
Right.
Like there's not time, and there's all these other limits in here about like you have to go in person and you have to get an ultrasound, and you can't get something in the mail and it has to be by a physician. That's all to cause the delay. It's the only reason that it's there.
And I just like to note that an interesting fact, if you haven't picked up on it, is the fact that, like, I'm so grateful to be able to go to a store and afford to be able to buy a pregnancy test, that I am able to get into my car, that I pay for, that I have insurance on, and I'm able to drive myself to a doctor. That is not the reality for all women.
Yeah.
And, like, let alone in Florida, like, if you've been there, public transportation, I'm so sorry, is like a joke.
Does it
It's not,
exist? I'm sorry. I'm
it's a
sorry.
joke.
It's like you have to wait outside for an hour in 90-degree weather and thunderstorms potentially. Yeah. And I mean, I think this kind of gets into one of the points we wanted to talk about, that this is an empty shell facade type of like pandering to nonsense. Because if you really cared about children and families and well-being, we wouldn't be banning books, right? When you're saying that you signed this law to protect the most vulnerable, well, when the Parkland kids after the shooting went all up to the legislature with their families
Right.
to tell them firsthand what it was like for them, demanding action, everyone said, God, so sorry. And
Right.
nothing happened. Not one bill, nothing passed, nothing
Right.
even made it to the governor's desk. So you want to talk to me about this crap that you actually care about children?
I
Well,
mean, even before
like
getting to that,
like alive children are actually dying.
even
But
even not, we're not even talking about high school kids. Let's just talk about when children come into this earth. Okay, what access are you providing, for moms for postpartum care?
formula shortages.
Formula. Are you providing, food? Are you providing access to resources to allow, I don't know, daycare access so that these mothers can go to work?
Yep.
What are we doing for these kids? Because again, it's not about the kids. To me, I don't see that this is not about the kids at all. This is a complete attack on women. That's the way that I view it. That's the way that I see it. And
Yeah.
if you,
And I mean, we don't like we've talked about this before. We don't have maternity leave. We don't have any of these things.
no,
The cost of daycare has gone up exponentially, not in the same rate as wages because wages are stagnant
right,
and daycare just keeps going up and up. We
right.
talked about the cost of college the other day, how much it's increased in just 10, 15 years, like all of these things. So, this is the problem. It's not just about, and what I would like to know is I would like every single um, politician in any state. I want all of them to stand up if they're in support of this kind of bill. And then I want them to remain standing if they've ever fostered or adopted a child.
Correct.
And maybe one, maybe.
Please. Just show me the stats.
Just to show me, because that's the problem.
Nope.
Like, put your money where your mouth is. People talk about there's other options. Really? Let me show you all the kids that are in the system, aging out, never getting adopted, right?
It's exhausting.
Let's talk about how hard it is to get an adoption. Do you know how many people I know that would love to adopt a child and there's so many hoops and it's so expensive and they can't do it? It's insane.
I mean, we're not even talking about fostering, just to maintain and have a
Yeah.
child.
Yeah.
You know?
And there's a lot of states that have a law that says it's like illegal to take a puppy away from the mom for like 8 weeks or something.
10
But none
weeks.
of those states have it illegal for a mom to go back to work before 6 or 8 weeks, right?
Right.
So
So
like that, it's so absurd that it's almost comical, but at the same time it's not because it's affecting real people, right?
correct.
It's like it's almost like it must be a joke because I feel like a joke,
No,
right?
all it did was piss me off. Like, if I'm being frank, I'm like, I saw this come in. It like popped up on my phone, get the news app alerts, and I'm like, great. Once again, because as a woman, I don't have enough to do. Like, I have to like maintain, societal norms. I have to maintain whatever stereotype. I have to like do all this, but like not be enough of this. I have to be assertive, but I can't be a bitch. I have to do this. I have to maintain my child, but I have to, not worry about this. It's like so much shit. And then like you want to, on top of this, now I have to worry. I have to personally worry. Now
Mhm.
I have to worry about where my kid is going to go. Like she's only 3, but like this is the thought process. I'm like, add it to the pile of crap and the garbage that I have to deal with on a regular basis. Now you have this and you're trying to preface it or hide it behind the guise of like, oh, this is protecting our children. What in the hell are you doing
They're
for
like
these?
voting against like free
What
lunches in school. Like it's such a hypocrisy is all that
what are
it
you
is.
doing?
Yeah.
What
And
are
I
you
mean,
doing?
it's a lot of, like you said, it's a war on women. It's about controlling women because men don't get pregnant. There's no laws regulating or enforcing. People don't go to jail when they don't pay child support. They may go to jail for like a little bit, but you don't really go to jail. You don't get like sentenced to jail, right? And that's like the hardest thing to get. I can give you a list of people that owe $50,000, $75,000. I have a client right now who's owed over $100,000 in child support. And that idiot father is out there living it up,
Right.
going out to eat, right? And so it's why, if you're going to make this such an emphasis and you're going to put all these restrictions on women, you damn better start child support at conception because it doesn't. It starts after birth,
Right.
right? And you better make it a lot more than what it is. But don't worry, Florida has a calculator that I have yet to meet one person in my career that has been on board with what the number is. Because it's not, people always say, but that's not enough money to take care of a child. I'm like, I know it's not. It's
You
not
know,
at all.
you know what
Not meant to help you provide for a child.
the biggest thing that's upsetting, and we're missing the point, that any woman put in the position to make that decision, whether or not to have one or not to have one, like that is a very difficult choice. It's not like somebody, first of all, a pregnancy is 10 weeks, all right? It's 10 months, all right? I have, there is no woman I that's going to get to like 39 weeks and it's like, you know what? Like, I changed my mind. Like, that's not a thing. That's not a thing.
No.
That's not a
Everybody who wants one gets one as soon as they can because that's what you want. And then people who get them later, it's because things happened that they discussed with their doctor. Like, how hard is this to understand?
I
But it's
don't
because it's not real. That's why, Missy, because it's
because
not real.
this is not about not understanding. This is about people that just continue to like push their own social agenda on. They don't want you to impress their own, your own values and your own beliefs. Like they want you to be imposed with whatever it is that they believe. Like stay in your lane. Stay in your lane. You don't want to get an abortion? Don't get an abortion. Then don't. But
And
like
promote things that actually prevent abortions, like all of the things that we talked about, like access to healthcare, you
right.
know, there's just so many things. If you're a woman that has not a lot of money, crappy job, and you got a boyfriend that
You're
not that
not in a
great
position.
either, and
You're
you
not
know that child support is going to be either non-existent or minimal, right?
you're not in the position to take care of a child.
Right. And then, but shocker, if you do have that child and then you're living in your car with that child, you're now a terrible mother.
Right.
And that kid's going to get taken away from you.
I mean, the point
So
is like,
it's just that's why it's a control thing. It's a control on we want the people we want to get pregnant. We want to have sex when we want. Women don't get to decide that, right? And so because it all always rolls back to the whole, well, if you're gonna have sex, then you need to know that this is a thing. Well, so do you, person who impregnated me. But it
right,
doesn't. All of the pressure, all of the onus, all of the guilt, all of the shaming goes on women. That's why there's no word for working dads,
correct.
right? That's not a word in our society, So I think that other than just sitting here and complaining, because unfortunately it feels like sometimes that's all that we can do. Um, let's kind of get back to that point we were talking about before with Roe v. Wade, because I feel like people don't necessarily, especially people that aren't involved in the legal community, don't necessarily understand what that means for everyone else.
Sure.
So, to kind of explain that, the way that the US government works in the sense of the federal government and the state government is that there's a separation of powers. So once there is a federal law, that's kind of like the baseline of the protection, right? States can go beyond that too, but they can't take away rights,
Right.
right?
So the states can provide more rights than what the federal law provides.
Exactly. That's
They
why we have
cannot-
like the Civil Rights Act, right? That's a federal law. It doesn't cover everything, but states can say, oh, you also can't discriminate for XYZ.
Correct. So
Right?
they can extend, but they can't limit it further. So that, like you said, it's the baseline. So you can give more, I'm putting my hands up for YouTube, more, but you can't put it down. You can't make it less. You can't minimize it.
So Roe v. Wade was our baseline. That was
Correct.
the baseline. Every time a state wanted to restrict abortion access in a way that violated Roe v. Wade, it wasn't allowed, right? That's how it would get challenged. The problem is Roe v. Wade was not a law. It was a case. It was the case of someone last name Roe versus someone last name Wade, right? So the judiciary, judges don't make laws, they interpret laws. So our Supreme Court now said, no, you guys got that wrong. So when they reversed it, that's why it's gone. So
Right.
unless and until we have a federal baseline that says you can't restrict abortion beyond, less than X amount of time or whatever it may be, states can do whatever they want, which is now what's happened, right?
Right.
Now, a bunch of states now adding Florida, which is not really the popular state of, the country. Um, this is why all of this is happening, because they can do whatever they want now.
Right.
And so I want to make sure people understand that, because it's not so much of just, it's just a court case. It's a that. And that was what was protecting everyone, women in particular, from these kind of laws getting put into place. So I'm not sure if there's something else that you want to mention about that, Missy.
No, I think we covered it.
Yeah.
That's
That's how it goes. So, now what do we do?
what do you
What
do? What do you do? If you are not incensed about this, then you are part of the problem, number one. Everyone else, like we need to start getting organized. Because if you think everybody up here in New Jersey in the tri-state area that like this does not affect you, that has nothing to do with you, like you are very much confused. You are very
Right.
much
And if the majority in the federal government decide to make a law to restrict to a certain extent, then it could be a problem for everyone, even for states that don't believe that it's going to be a problem for them. Right.
I mean, this is the start. This is the beginning of it. This is the
Right.
beginning of like I don't even know what word I want to use. This is the beginning of it. If you think it can't creep up into like where we live now,
Yeah.
listen. We have a governor right now that is very dedicated to women and women's right to choose
You
and
mean in your state?
yes, right now in New Jersey. Yes. We're fortunate enough to, to have somebody who is, when we're talking about the subject of like women's reproductive rights, is very much committed to us. But these positions are positions that, you essentially vote for these people to be in office. So what do we do? Like, we need to get more involved. There are so many things that we do as women in general. And then it's not to say that like somebody else, a man can't get involved or anybody else that identifies otherwise. We need to get involved because this affects all of us.
Right.
Here,
As a man, if you
as a
are,
man,
is what
you
I
came
mean.
from as a man.
You need to understand these things, because you are surrounded by women, no matter who you are, right? Whether you have a mom or a daughter or a sister or a best friend or whoever, these are things that affect you,
Right.
right? And even though, um, let's say you're this short-sighted individual who says, no, this will never affect me in any way whatsoever. It also does affect you in these other areas. When we're talking about healthcare, we're talking about childcare, we're talking about just all of these things that are all intertwined. It does have an effect. And so I believe that a big problem with our society today is that people are very short-sighted and think only as to themselves and their particular situation. Um, in the sense of people that say, well, if it doesn't affect me, I don't care. Um, you shouldn't wait till it affects you. We should care as a society. I luckily am not homeless, but I do care about
Right.
the homeless population, and I don't want there to be a higher homeless population.
Correct.
Even though sitting here today, in terms of the concerns I have for my life, that's not the one on the top of my list, right? Obviously, anything can happen in this world, but just speaking generally about what the things that concern me. And so I think that a lot of people need to get involved in not just voting, because voting, when if we just sit on our couch and shrug and wait until we see whatever people are running for president, first of all, people get so caught up in the presidential candidates, which are very important, but they don't realize how much state elections affect you so much more.
Right.
Ergo,
Local
this
races.
law, right?
Correct.
And so, don't just wait until every 4 years for the presidential races, because presidents are also limited. Yes, they can do a lot of things. Yes, they have a voice or like an agenda to promote, but at the end of the day, they don't make actual laws,
Right.
right? And your state affects you a lot more sometimes, especially on certain things like your housing and education than other matters. And so, getting involved in who is actually running
Right.
and contributing, these kind of grassroots efforts, I believe, are getting more and more important to be involved with, because the people that are making these laws at the end of the day are not being affected by them.
No, not in the
You
slightest.
know,
I
these
mean,
old, people that are writing these laws with this mentality of 1942, like, they're going to be gone soon, but the
and
law
even if,
is not, and we're going to be here, and our kids are going to be here.
and I was going to say, even if they are affected by this law, they have the means and the capacity to be able to travel to places where they can get what they
Yeah.
want.
Oh yeah. People with money have never, even when abortions were completely illegal and people were literally using hangers okay, to solve this problem.
All,
The
but you know what?
mistresses of the politicians were always in a nice place with a real doctor helping them out, and it was not an issue,
You
right?
know, let me just, abortions are not going to go away. They didn't exist. They existed before, long before Roe v. Wade, and they're going to exist now. I think the part that makes me the most incensed about this whole thing is that, you know, since the overturn of Roe v. Wade, in like the coming months after that, like I was reading through articles and where I read that Florida actually saw the greatest increase in legal abortions. Legal abortions. Okay. That's not to discount from the fact that like there were other things going on in the background. This is not going to eliminate
No,
abortion from happening. This is going to eliminate legal abortions from happening, which is only going to suggest that abortion is going to continue. You're going to see issues with women getting, these procedures done that not through proper means because we're not making it available to them. And it's going to develop into possibly long-term issues, both for mom and child. Like,
yeah,
this is why I keep coming back to the issue of like, this has nothing to do with kids.
because nothing is being put
Nothing
into
to do with kids.
place that
You're not
actually helps kids once they're born. Nothing. Or
help moms
moms,
with
families.
daycare. Help moms get, some, therapy postpartum. Help moms, be able to stock their homes with food, with the resources that they
Just
need.
start with freaking maternity leave, man. Like,
Please.
Jesus, it's just,
It's great to see that my dog gets more rights, is protected more
oh
than
yeah. Oh yeah.
my dog needed to be with his mother. I could not see, when I adopted my dog Bruno, he needed to be with his mom for 10 weeks before I was allowed to take him home. 10 weeks.
Two and a
There
half months.
excuse
And
me.
moms are going back to work in days.
We have to. We have to. If you
Yeah.
see what you get on like on Social Security on temporary disability, it is laughable.
Yeah.
Laughable.
If you're even eligible for it.
The cost of daycare is insane.
Yeah. Yeah, it is. And so I guess, to kind of wrap up this really depressing episode, in my opinion, because, you know, it makes you feel so powerless because
Right.
there's nothing that can be done today. There's
No,
nothing that can be done right now. There's nothing that I can do or anywhere I can go or anyone I can call or send a stupid template email to my senator who doesn't give a crap. Okay. There's nothing that I can actually do. Like it's all a long game.
mhm,
And that's what is exhausting people, that people don't have time to worry about the long game because they can barely pay their bills in the short game.
correct. And that was my point in the beginning. I was like, so on top of the list of everything else, the societal pressures that I have to go through as a professional, as an attorney, as a mom, as a Latina, like all this other crap that I have to do. And I have to do it nicely because I have to wear a nice shirt and I have to wear heels, right? And all this other stuff. And otra mierda.
You
On
don't have
top
an
of
attitude, by the way.
I don't have an attitude,
Don't
especially don't have
don't
an
be too loud.
never. On top of that, now I have to go and read through all this crap because some guy is signing stuff behind closed doors at 10:45 at night, like the sneaky whatever you want to call him at this point. I'm ready to drop bombs because it's been that kind of day and this just incensed me. But here we are. We have to get involved, man. You can't, you want change, stop getting allowing these people to be in office.
Right. Say
Get
being like,
involved.
oh, I don't like the options, then you need to work on who these options are. That's what needs to be done. Because just waiting around and not voting and not doing anything and just saying, oh, look, I'm not gonna lie. I've been victim to that. And I've voted in every election. I vote locally and nationally when applicable, but it does get tiring.
Yeah,
It does, you do reach a point where you're like, what is the point? Because these bozos are going to do whatever they want.
right.
It's all an agenda. It's all a scheme. It's not real. It's very, and it's so disheartening. And I guess the only thing that we can do is collectively become upset and support each other so that we can have candidates that we want and that we need to represent us. Because when less and less people show up, then it's not real representation. It's just not.
And remember this going in. 2024 is around the corner. The presidential elections is around. Like, is this the person that you want on this platform?
Right.
If this is what he's doing on a local statewide level, what do you think he's going to do on a federal level?
Right. Right.
So, I think this was a very informative episode. I think it was necessary. I know that it's a little bit heavy considering the typical topics that we like to cover, but we saw it as very important. We saw that we needed to, have a space to be able to address our views and really diagnose a little bit about what all of this means. Because again, we want to be able to be a resource to you all, to kind of explain things and just really, so you all have a good understanding of what is currently the state of, legislation, especially in Florida, and potentially what could impact us nationwide. So, this is an unfortunate situation. We definitely want to hear from you all about your position on this, and as well as any other topics that you want us to cover. Again, not trying to be heavy, but it's very important for us to cover things that are current, are, of topic, and, affect us.
Yeah. Affect us, affect everybody else.
So,
No matter
thank
what
you,
you think
Connie,
about
as
them.
always. Yeah. Hit us up. What other topics do you want to hear about? We have really just enjoyed this first season of Lawbogadas. Looking forward to more to come. Obviously, this is not the end of it, but it has been, really exciting to be here. So, hit us up at Lawbogadas, email us info@lawbogadas.com. Let us know what you guys want to talk about. Join us, this week, every Monday, 12 o'clock for our Cafecito Club, where we post our new episode. And, we look forward to see you there.
Thank you, Missy. Always a pleasure. Catch you next time.
Yeah.